Hello, everyone, to another lesson on fractions. Let's go over a brief review first. So, what is a fraction? Again, over here, the top number right here, the 3, is a numerator, which shows how many parts you have or need. And the denominator is the 8 over here, the bottom half of the fraction, which shows how many parts the whole is divided into. To give more context, let's say I have a cake, I baked a cake, I cut the cake into 8 pieces. That's how many parts the whole is divided into. The cake is divided into 8 parts. The numerator, let's say I have to share this cake with someone named Sally. The 3 represents how many parts I have or what I want. So I have 3 parts out of the 8 cakes. A review of some terms includes the term that we learned recently, lowest common multiple, which is the smallest number that is divisible by both denominators. For example, simplified fractions. Simplified fractions means reducing the fraction to its lowest terms using the greatest common divisor. So, for example, here, 6/8 got simplified into 3/4. What would you think is the greatest common divisor is to make the simplified? In this case, it would be 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Remember, they both have to be divisible by the same number. Greatest common divisor is the largest number that divides evenly into both the numerator and denominator. So in this case, like we said, the greatest common divisor would be 2 because both numbers, 6 and 8, can be divided by 2 to get 3/4. Moving on, here's an example. So 8/20ths, what would be the greatest common divisor? Now here we see that it's 4. 4 is our lucky number. 4 is used to equally divide both 8 and 20. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Here we get 2/5, which is the lowest of the simplified fraction. Now let's take a moment to see when we use fractions in our daily life. You may be wondering why this is so important and why we have to learn it in school. So let's give it some context. Real life examples of fractions include cooking and baking, construction, shopping and budgeting, time management, and even used in sports. So now that we've given context to fractions and why it's important, let's learn how to multiply fractions. Again, I do believe that multiplying fractions is a more easier to follow and less steps than adding and subtracting fractions. So by the end of this, I can use multiplication to find the product of fractions by fractions and fractions by mixed numbers. I would like you to pause the video and engage with this minds on. Remember, there's more than one way to do it, and we'll take up the answer after. Thank you. So now that you've all had a few minutes to answer this question, let's go through it. Okay, so let's read the question together. Okay, so you need to make 2 batches of cupcakes. Each batch requires 3/4 cup of flour and 2/3 cup of sugar. How much flour and sugar do you need in total? What about for 3 batches? So let's discuss 2 batches first. So this is showing us that we need to multiply these fractions by 2 batches. 2 batches being a whole number. So what do we do in order to make a whole number a fraction? We know we have to put a 1 under it. So here we're multiplying 3 times 2, which equals 6, and 4 times 1, which is 4. But we can't leave this as an improper fraction. So in order to do that, we know that 4 goes into 6 one time, which is why there's a 1 whole here, and the 2 is what's remaining of the 4. And we can simplify this even further, which is 1 whole and 1/4. Sorry, 1/2. And now we have to do it for the 2/3. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 1 is 3. So 4 over 3 is 1 whole and 1/3. So that's how much we would need for 2 batches. Now let's figure out what we would need for 3 batches. So take a moment to do that, and we'll discuss the answers for next class. Moving on, let's learn how to multiply fractions by fractions. So these are kind of the simplified steps that I try to simplify as much as I can. So again, you straight multiply the numerators and straight multiply the denominators, and then you have to simplify if need be. So let's try this question. Pause and take a second to answer it, and let's take up the question in the next slide. So here, example, let's figure out the answer. So 6 times 3 is 18. 8 times 4 is 32. So 1832. Here we thought, okay, let's do 2s. So half of 18 is 9. Half of 32 is 16. And we just kept it at 9/16. Now let's multiply fractions by whole numbers. So change the whole number to an improper fraction, multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and simplify the fraction. So let's pause the video here and take a second to answer this question. So now that we've given everyone a few minutes to answer this question, let's take this up. So as you can see, I changed the 3 to an improper fraction, which means it's 3 wholes over 1, so 3 ones. And then straight multiplying, so 6 times 3 equals 18, and 8 times 1 equals 8. So now I know this is divisible by 2, so what I did is divided it by 2, both numerators and denominators, which gave me 9/4. Now this is an improper fraction, and we can't leave a fraction like that, so I changed that to a mixed number, which is 2 wholes and 1/4. Now that we've gone through a little bit of review, I want you to take a few minutes to or take the rest of the class to try solving these multiplication questions. Again, some of the numbers are bigger numbers, but I just did that so you could also have practice simplifying fractions after. We'll take up these answers next class. I do want to check in with you before I leave to see if you have any questions. You can email me or go through the chat box. And some additional homework questions would be your multiplying fractions by fractions worksheet, your multiplying fractions by whole numbers worksheet. There's a few questions on each. And if you have time and you want to test yourself, here's another Minds On with just a different set of fractions and see if you can figure this out. We'll try working on it first thing next class. Thank you so much. Have a great day.